Cryptozoology is the study of undiscovered animals that may exist in the physical world. A legend is a story from the past that's believed by many people but can't actually be proven true. When you take a combination of those two things, you get a legendary animal who may or may not exist. This story is about one of those A-list celebrity cryptids that is said to roam the wilds of New Jersey. But the story behind the story may be even wilder than that. This is extremely strange. The Jersey Devil, no, not that one, has been depicted by many as some sort of an amalgam between a flying kangaroo and a horse with wings resembling that of a bat, cloven hooves, and a forked tail that's been frightening inhabitants and visitors alike in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey for hundreds of years. Now, there are a couple of examples of pine barrens left in the United States: the Long Island Central Pine Barrens and the Massachusetts Coastal Pine Barrens are the others. The largest of those are the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Now, pine barrens typically are very sandy regions with very acidic soil where you can't really plant or grow anything agriculturally. Now, this was a real problem for early settlers who, recognizing these issues, turned their thoughts more to the industrial side of things with sawmills, grist mills, iron furnaces, and so forth, as well as setting fires to produce charcoal, which was sold in abundance. Unfortunately, they weren't very fussy about whose property they set fire to. But back to the Jersey Devil. Legend has it that a woman called Mother Leeds lived in the Pine Barrens in the 18th century. Having already given birth to 12 children and learning she was pregnant with her 13th, out of understandable frustration, she proclaimed that she wished the child to be born a devil. Because that would be fun? When number 13 was born in 1735, it appeared at first to be a normal human baby, but suddenly transformed into a hideous winged beast that slaughtered both its mother and a midwife before flying out of the house through the chimney, where it then embarked on a centuries-long reign of terror. Now, I know there are many variations of this story. The mother was spared, only the midwife was killed, the mother was a witch, the father was a devil. All we know was that a demon was born this night. Now, there are two people identified as the real Mother Leeds. One was Jane Leeds, and the other was Deborah Leeds, who, on the surface, seems to be the better choice, as her husband Japhet named 12 children in his will, which he wrote during 1736. The couple also lived in what is now the Leeds Point section of New Jersey, which is ground zero for the Jersey Devil story. Throughout the 1700s and early 1800s, what was then known as the Leeds Devil had become the stuff of legends in the area of southern New Jersey. In 1859, for example, the Atlantic Monthly ran an article that spoke in great detail of the stories being shared amongst residents, and by 1887, at least one newspaper published the account of an actual sighting in Burlington County. They reported someone holding the rank of colonel claimed to have heard an unearthly yell when he approached the creature, and dogs being whipped into a frenzy. But while he never caught a glimpse of it, he recalled stories of hunters shooting at it but not being able to kill it. Other early experiencers included Commodore Stephen Decatur, the youngest man to achieve that rank in U.S. naval history, who, visiting the Hanover Mill Works to inspect cannonballs being forged, sighted a flying creature and fired a cannonball directly at it, to no effect. Joseph Bonaparte, elder brother of Napoleon, claimed to have come face to face with a hissing winged creature while hunting on his estate somewhere around 1820. He stared down the beast, who then took to the skies. In 1840 and 1841, the devil was claimed responsible for numerous livestock killings, leaving tracks and producing horrifying screams. In the week of January 16th through the 23rd in 1909, the reports went into overdrive, with newspapers publishing hundreds of reported encounters with the beast from southern New Jersey into the Philadelphia area. It was claimed the creature attacked a trolley car in Haddon Heights, as well as disrupted a social club in Camden and tried to eat a dog at a different sighting. Police there and in Bristol, Pennsylvania, supposedly opened fire on it, but their ammunition had no effect. The sighting soon spread to as far away as Delaware, where fear so gripped the populace that schools were closed and workers stayed home. Vigilante groups were formed to hunt down the beast, and the Philadelphia Zoo was said to have offered a $10,000 reward for capture of the creature. One intrepid fraudster named Norman Jeffries capitalized on the hysteria by faking a capture of the devil and displaying it at the Ninth and Arch Museum, which, like others of its time, was a place to view oddities. He acquired a domesticated kangaroo, equipped it with copper wings and feathers, and attached green whiskers and a pelt of rabbit fur around its midsection. Going full out on the hoax, he staged its capture by transporting the poor animal to a location in a van, chaining it to a tree, and having a group of men posing as farmers surround it. He charged the princely sum of 10 cents to view the creature, and Jeffries finally copped to the deception some 9 years later. Stories of its presence continued, and in Greenwich in December of 1925, a local farmer claimed he shot an unidentified animal as an attempt to steal his chickens. He said he took a photo of it and showed it to somewhere around 100 people, but none were able to identify what it was. In the summer of 1937, an unknown creature with red eyes was reported by residents of Dowingtown, Pennsylvania, and in 1951, some boys in Gibbstown, New Jersey, claimed to have spotted it. A body matching that of the devil's description made the papers in 1957, and 3 years later a set of tracks along with some unidentifiable noises were heard near Mays Landing. Camden, New Jersey merchants offered their own $10,000 reward for its capture, along with a pledge to build it a private zoo to house it. The search for the Jersey Devil hasn't really abated in the decades to follow, with groups specifically formed to reveal its presence and capture evidence of its existence. Sightings and investigations continue to this day, and alternate explanations for what people see and hear, like the sand crane, do little to discourage those explorations. Many are convinced that the creature still wanders the region and point to many examples of photos, video, and audio recordings, as well as eyewitness testimony to back up their assertions. Now look, I believe that creatures like Bigfoot could exist, and there are some very compelling pieces of evidence that may support that. So I don't suggest for a minute that some unusual creature may exist in the Pine Barrens that has yet to be uncovered. I mean, even the X-Files did an episode on it. You know, the one where the child devil looks like Snooky from Jersey Shore. But in terms of where this legend first began, let me tell you a story that involves politics, religion, and professional jealousy that got way out of hand. In 1677, a devout Quaker named Daniel Leeds immigrated to America and settled in Burlington, New Jersey. His third wife had given birth to 9 children. Previously, his second wife and first daughter had both died during childbirth. A surveyor by trade, Leeds had a strong devotion to the royal crown and acquired land in the Egg Harbor area within the confines of the Pine Barrens that came to be known as Leeds Point. Within 10 years of his arrival, he was working with one of America's first printers and eventually published an almanac called, appropriately, An American Almanac. To the dismay of his fellow Quakers, Daniel's publication contains such frowned-upon items as astrological symbols and associated statistics and information. This was deemed too paganistic and blasphemous, and in a precursor to cancel culture, the publication was essentially blacklisted and often used for fire kindling by the local Quaker community. Despite these protestations, Leeds continued to publish the almanac, expounding on its most controversial content as he delved further into occultism, mysticism, demonology, angelology, cosmology, magic, and Christian dogma. By the 1690s, the Quaker community had had enough and censored and labeled as heretical his writings. Leeds responded by converting to Anglicanism and using his publication to criticize Quaker theology, as well as blasting them for being disloyal to the crown. Lord Cornbury, the British royal governor of New York and New Jersey, sided with Leeds, which further strained his own already tenuous relationship with the Quakers. Their allegiance further incensed them, who branded Leeds a traitor for his loyalty to the British and bestowed upon him the reputation as being a minion of Satan, going so far as to troll him by publishing a tract or literary work called Satan's Harbinger Encountered, which basically accused him of being in league with the devil. Leeds retired from the almanac business by 1716, with his son Titan taking over for him. Like his father, Titan continued its astrological content and in time found the publication directly competing with none other than Ben Franklin's quite popular Poor Richard's Almanac, which began circulation in 1732, almost 50 years after Daniel Leeds' first almanac was published. The competition between them came to a head when in 1733 Franklin, in a very satiric and dismissive manner, employed some fake astrology in his own almanac to predict Titan Leeds' death, which he claimed would be in October that year. When Leeds did not pass from this mortal coil on that date, Franklin suggested it was actually his ghost that was publishing his work. He was obviously just taking a gratuitous shot at his competitor and trying to have this edition go what we would term today as viral, but Titan Leeds failed to see the humor in all of it and took great offense, countering with his own proclamation that labeled Franklin a fool and a liar. So here's where we take a step back and look at this from 10,000 feet. Let's take Daniel's reputation among the Quakers as an occultist, a pro-monarchist, and someone who they believe was in league with the devil himself. Add in Franklin's depiction of Titan Leeds as a ghost, and you start to get a clearer picture where the idea of a Leeds devil may have originated from. Now, beginning in 1728, Titan Leeds now would include the family crest in the heading of his publications. The crest depicted what is called a wyvern, which is a legendary dragon-like creature with bat-like wings, which, if you've been paying attention, looks eerily similar to descriptions of the early sightings of the Jersey Devil. One might see in those less enlightened times where that image might have influenced locals to believe there was darker meaning in its inclusion. Couple that with a family that had been all but ostracized from a community that already resented their allegiance to royalty and aristocracy, which also favored their presumptuous crests and family arms, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that the notion of being in league with the devil and assorted other malevolent creatures would be projected upon the Leeds family. Now, the more contemporary version of the Jersey Devil does indeed resemble that of the wyvern, but it's difficult to say that that's actually what influenced what people are seeing right now. Now, there's no doubt that the very existence of a Jersey Devil may have its origins in the Quakers' religious objections to the content of Daniel Leeds' almanac, or the idea that Franklin had a bone to pick with his business competition. But as is often the case, a legend will grow from a simple grain of truth, and that may be what we see with the legend of the Jersey Devil. Now, does a cryptid exist in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey? For that answer, we may have to wait a bit longer. But investigators will hearken back to the words of Mother Leeds when she hoped that the next one will be a devil.